Prince William didn't hit back at Harry. He didn't rant on a podcast. He didn't leak juicy gossip to the tabloids or sit down for a pity chat with Oprah. No, he played it smarter. He made a move so refined and deliberate, it made Harry look like a sulking kid beside a poised future king. Instead of shouting into the void, William quietly signed up for The Reluctant Traveler, a charming, witty, and upscale Apple TV Plus series hosted by none other than Eugene Levy. Yes, that Eugene Levy, the legend from American Pie. This wasn't just clever PR. It was a royal masterstroke, executed right out in the open. And if you were really paying attention, you'd know it wasn't just another friendly interview. It was William's response, delivered with grace and precision. Picture the moment. Eugene Levy waits in the Windsor Castle courtyard, probably expecting William to glide in behind tinted windows in a black Range Rover surrounded by security. But instead, William cruises in on an electric scooter, running late, casually dressed, tire slightly deflated. That's how he arrives, at his own castle. No crown, no stiff upper lip, just a dad with 3 kids, a packed calendar, and zero interest in pretending to be perfect for the cameras. And honestly, that moment alone said more than any Netflix documentary Harry could ever release. Because while Harry's been stuck in a cycle of self-pity, publishing tearful memoirs and turning palace life into a therapy session, William showed up genuine, unfiltered, and perfectly imperfect. The wildest part, he kept that flat tire moment in the final cut. Do you really think a future king doesn't have control over the edit? He chose to leave it in. That's confidence. That's a man completely unbothered by image. While Harry and Meghan are out there curating every photo like a glossy magazine spread, William's saying, "Yeah, I was late. My tire's flat. Let's get on with it." The interview wasn't just laid back. It was calculated, purposeful. William spoke about his vision for the monarchy, change that matters, not rebellion, but progress. He said he wants his son to be proud of what he builds. That one line hit like a quiet explosion. Not in a dramatic way, but because it revealed maturity, accountability, and here's the kicker, a touch of quiet shade. When William said he didn't want to repeat the mistakes of the past, the rigid traditions and stifling royal expectations he and Harry grew up under, he didn't shout it. He didn't tear up. He just said it plainly, like someone who's lived through it, learned from it, and now wants to do better for his own children. And yes, he mentioned Harry once, a single sentence. That's all. That's how little space his brother takes up in his current mindset. It wasn't a jab, it was a flex. While William spoke about meaningful change, family life, and the struggle of balancing personal challenges with duty, he never once took the low road. No cheap digs, no emotional outbursts about sibling rivalry. He didn't even mention Harry again. Instead, he shared stories about visiting his grandmother at Windsor during his school days at Eton, fondly recalling their tea times and how she'd always make sure he left absolutely stuffed. It was heartfelt, nostalgic, and yes, unmistakably royal. Not in that distant, formal way, but warm, human, and full of affection. And that's really what the entire appearance was, a masterclass in restraint, in image, in quiet power. While Harry's been playing the role of a reality TV prince, William stepped onto the world stage like a composed statesman on Apple TV Plus, not Netflix. With Eugene Levy, not Anderson Cooper. And there was no $1 million paycheck involved either. Reportedly, William turned down any personal payment and asked that a donation be made to charity instead. That's where it lands hardest, because Harry's every move seems transactional. Every story comes with a price tag. Every appearance feels desperate for attention. William, he doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the spotlight. He simply wanted to reveal who he truly is. And he pulled it off so effortlessly, Harry probably didn't even realize he'd just been roasted, without a single insult thrown. Let that sink in, because this wasn't a comeback. It was a reminder. William never left the throne room. He's been there all along, watching, waiting, and when the moment arrived, he didn't swing down. He stood tall, spoke softly, and let the contrast speak for itself. Prince William wasn't just charismatic on camera. He was calculated with every move, every pause, every smile. Every story came across as natural. But beneath that calm surface was a quiet dismantling of everything Harry's been shouting for years. This wasn't open warfare. It was elegance in motion. No swords, no scandals, just tone, composure, and precision. As Eugene Levy guided the chat with his signature dry humor, William responded with stories that oozed authenticity. He opened up about growing up within the institution, the emotional strain of family expectations, and the weight of carrying centuries of royal history. He even admitted that what overwhelms him most these days isn't the royal duties, it's the family stuff. And let's be honest, that line wasn't just random, it was a direct hit, aimed cleanly at the chaos stirred by the brother overseas. But William never pointed fingers, and that's exactly what made it land harder. He didn't have to. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. While Harry spent the past few years painting himself as a wounded soldier of the monarchy, William stood calm, composed, self-aware, and strong. Not the chest-puffed kind of strong, but the kind that comes from quiet confidence, from knowing exactly who you are and refusing to get pulled into the noise. And there was humor too. Not the awkward, try-hard kind celebrities use to seem relatable, but genuine, effortless humor. William was dry, self-deprecating, and quick on his feet. He teased Eugene about his ever-growing bucket list, joked about his own scooter's flat tire, and even quipped that Eugene would look perfect in an oil painting. None of it felt scripted. These were real, spontaneous moments. He dropped the guard, but never the crown. Even his wardrobe told a story. William didn't show up in full royal regalia. He wore easy knits, tailored jackets, simple slacks, that understated, refined look that whispers quiet confidence. He looked lean, relaxed, and comfortable, like a man carrying serious responsibilities, but still able to laugh at himself. And for once, it wasn't polished perfection, it was real. It wasn't some Netflix-style slow pan over manicured gardens and candlelit living rooms. This was Windsor Castle, yes, but real, lived in, historic, and most importantly, human. The brilliance of it all, William let the camera see him exactly as he is. A man who runs late to interviews, cruising around on a two-wheeled scooter with a flat tire, a man who gets overwhelmed by family tension, a man who still misses his grandmother and can't help but tear up remembering what she meant to him, a man who, despite all the titles, is simply trying to lead with purpose while holding it all together. What made it powerful wasn't just the contrast to Harry's chaos, it was that William never addressed the drama directly. He didn't call anyone out, he didn't get defensive or emotional, he didn't play the victim, he just showed up, steady, grounded, proving that maturity and composure speak louder than any explosive podcast ever could. And let's not forget where this all happened. Apple TV Plus, not ITV, not the BBC, not even a UK outlet. William chose America's most premium, tech-driven streaming platform, one built on innovation, trust, and class. That wasn't coincidence. It was deliberate, a power move executed with precision. Because while Harry tried to win over America with Netflix deals and tabloid buzz, William simply walked through the front doors of American prestige media and took his seat at the top table. It was the perfect checkmate, quiet, clean, definitive. And for the first time in years, the crown didn't feel heavy. It felt earned, worn not just by birthright, but by behavior. William didn't have to tear anyone down. He didn't need fireworks or a media circus. All it took was 30 minutes, a scooter, a sweater, in the right stage. And with that, he reminded the world exactly who the real future king is. No mic drops, no memoirs, just presence. The most powerful part of William's appearance wasn't the scooter, the knitwear, or even the subtle jabs tucked between his words. It was how deeply human he allowed himself to be, on his own terms. When he spoke about the emotional weight of his role, the pressure of family, the quiet fear of repeating the past, you could see it in his eyes. Not just the refined composure of a royal, but the fatigue of someone who's carried far more than he ever admits. And that's what made him believable. He didn't disguise the strain. He didn't pretend to be untouchable. You could see it in the creases of his face, in the heaviness of his voice whenever family came up. Years of tension, loss, betrayal, and duty had clearly left their mark. But that's what gave his strength real weight, because it wasn't performative. It was lived. You can't fake that kind of emotional truth. And the wild part, that quiet sorrow, the heaviness behind his polished smile, made his silence on Harry speak 10 times louder. He didn't need to say he was hurt. He didn't need to explain the betrayal. It was all there, in the pauses, in the deliberate phrasing, in the way he measured every single word. There was a storm beneath that calm surface, but William never let it spill. He just kept moving forward, for his family, for his country, and for his children. Then came the legacy moment. He spoke about Queen Elizabeth with deep reverence, recalling the days he'd visit her at Windsor for tea while he was at Eton. His face lit up as he remembered how she always made sure he left completely full. That wasn't just nostalgia. It was the passing of a torch. His stories weren't about status or image or legacy. They were about warmth, about roots, about carrying something genuine into the future. And when he talked about change, you could tell he meant it. Not the buzzword kind tossed around in boardrooms, but the kind born from experience and self-reflection. Change that says, I've seen what doesn't work. I've lived through what leaves scars, and I want better for my children. That's what makes him so quietly formidable, a threat to the old narrative. Because he's not trying to be a traditional monarch. He's not just a symbol. He's a man on a mission. A father who wants his son to grow up in a monarchy that feels human, not ceremonial. A leader who understands just how brutal the institution can be, yet still chooses to guide it forward with grace, not grievance. And all of this, it landed like a thunderclap without the thunder. While Harry's been shouting shouting into the storm, trying to shake the palace with noise, headlines, and Netflix deals. William never entered the fight. He simply lit a candle. And somehow that single flame outshone all the chaos. No publicist could have scripted it better. No PR team could have timed it more perfectly. And no podcast or docuseries could ever replicate the quiet conviction William brought to that camera. This wasn't about firing back at Harry. It was about reminding the world that real power doesn't have to shout. In the end, Eugene Levy closed the episode with 3 simple words that summed it all up. Nice, open, human. That's the man William revealed. And maybe that's the king he's meant to be. Not perfect,